It's 118 days with the Tudors. Today we're thinking about 1601, and this is the year that Elizabeth's youngest favourite, Robert Devereux, falls from favour quite spectacularly. Okay, so yesterday we talked a little bit about his role in the 9 Years' War in Ireland, so we're going to backtrack slightly today and look at that in a little bit more detail and this real change in their relationship. So in 1598, Robert and Elizabeth have a bit of a falling out. What maybe bit is a bit of an understatement. She wants a new lieutenant in Ireland. He makes the suggestion of who he thinks it should be, who he thinks which is George Carew. She dismisses his opinion. He, in a strop, turns his back on her. She hits him over the head, and instinctively he draws his sword, and he has to then be very quickly restrained. In a bizarre display of insolence, he announces he was not going to put up with this indignity and being treated in this way, and he wouldn't have put up with it from Henry VIII either, which is a very unusual statement considering he was born almost 20 years after Henry had died. He didn't know him at all. He's also reported as saying, whether or not it's true we don't know, but it's reported that he said the Queen is as crooked in her disposition as she is in her carcass. He then storms off and out to his house in the country and refuses to come back to court. And because he's out there sulking and the Queen is still furious with him, he misses out on, do you remember we were talking about when William Cecil died, who was going to get that power? He's missed out on that negotiation now, so Robert is there. Robert can quickly take up that mantle. However, he falls ill. He's not so great. Elizabeth sends him her physician and she really softens to him, as she tended to do all the time anyway. So by the November of 1598, it's decided that Devereux is going to go over to Ireland and sort out all this rebellion that's going on over there. So as we know, she sent him over with lots and lots of men. But the job was a lot more complicated than he realised, and by July of 1599 he was exhausted and really quite unwell. So while he's really suffering, Elizabeth is kind of sending him all these letters, really angry about how much this whole debacle is costing her. And he's starting to get a bit paranoid, thinking that all of his friends back at court are probably stabbing him in the back while he's not there. So in the September of 1599, possibly because he just wanted the whole thing to be over and he wanted to get back to court, he arranged to meet with O'Neill, the leader of the Irish Rebellion, and arrange a secret truce. So Elizabeth was so angry about this and completely refused the truce. Robert Devereux, furious himself, leaves Ireland despite her orders not to, as fast as he can, gets back to London. While he's still muddy from riding, he storms into her bedchamber. She's not even dressed at this point. Her hair is all over the place, demanding an audience with her. Obviously, he's sent away. She sorts herself out, and they have meetings throughout that day. Elizabeth ordered him to go and explain himself to the council, and this was the last time she would ever see him. He was sent to York House as a prisoner, and the council started to gather evidence about him. But because his mental and physical health was really on the decline, action against him was put on hold briefly. He was supposed to stand trial in February of 1600, but after he sent a pleading letter to Elizabeth, she cancelled it. He had a hearing in the June of that year, which stripped him of all offices and placed him under house arrest, but Elizabeth kind of did loosen the shackles a little bit. Now, things don't actually get much better to him. He's allowed to leave the house eventually, but he's not allowed in court, and Elizabeth refuses to re-grant his lease that he normally has. He normally gets like a subsidy from sweet wines. That's his income, and she's cancelled that. So financially, he's ruined, really, and he's not allowed back at court, so he can't have any sort of political negotiations there. He uses this opportunity to appeal to James VI in Scotland and sort of start or continue some correspondence there. Then he seems to have a bit of an unusual idea. He decides he wants to get to the Queen and tell her all about his enemies and what everybody's been up to. So he gathers 300 men, and together they walk towards the palace where the Queen is staying with swords and some firearms. They march there, calling towards citizens to join them along the way. But when they get there, the Mayor of London shuts the gates and says, no, you're not coming in here. At that point, they've only got about 100 men left. They start to make their way back to his house, and by the time they get back there, he is arrested. He's in the Tower of London. On the 19th of February, he was tried for treason and condemned to death. He was beheaded on the 25th of February at the Tower with a small audience. So that is the end of Robert Devereux. What a life. At some points, he seems really intelligent and compassionate and interesting, and sometimes he just seems ridiculous. So, very interesting character, I think. So that's Robert Devereux. I'll see you tomorrow for 1602, when Robert Cecil is in secret negotiations with James VI, fearing the end of Elizabeth I. See you then.